I'm nervous. So they gave me the topic end. That's what we're going to discuss. But first, I want to thank Ben for inviting me to speak here today. And I looked online and I looked at the names of all the people that came to speak before me, and I'm really honored to be here. I want to thank my daughter, Brianna, I know y'all can give it up for her. If I'm Batman, she is certainly my Robin. If I'm Beyonce, she's my Kelly. I'm always Beyonce. Whatever, I'm Beyonce. And thank you to everyone that's here, all my friends. Thank you, Katora, for coming with me today, and Josh and Theo for being here. So like I said, I was given the topic and I thought for sure I would be giving a topic about injustice or racism, but you know I'm going to hit on both today. Either way it works. So when I met with Ben, I thought, how can I touch on this topic in a way that resonates with me and my truth and leaves you all inspired to step into your destiny? And immediately, I thought I cannot romanticize endings. Whenever I stand behind a microphone, it's my duty to speak the truth. So first, we're going to talk about two things. One, you don't have to be quiet. Every speaker loves a good amen corner. So, amen. So I'm going to need an amen corner. I know y'all got me. And I am about to recite a poem. There are two lines that I need you to remember in this poem because they are going to come up again later in this talk. This poem is called Power. Power. The capacity or ability to influence the behavior of others or the course of events. Power. Physical might. Power. The energy or motive force by which a physical system or machine is operated. Power, that thing that is in you, rumbling deep in your gut, flowing through your veins, making your heart beat. That feminine instinct that allows an ordinary woman to do extraordinary things. That allows a high school dropout to go back to school. That allows a woman beat down to leave an abusive relationship. That gives a woman the courage to say, I love you, but I love me a little bit more. That, I know that's right. That thing that says, not tomorrow, not when I retire, not because it's a new year, not when I turn 40, but today. Today is the day that I will muster up the power within me to take back everything that was stolen from me, to fulfill my dreams, to leave a job that doesn't pay me what I'm worth. Remember that line. To look cancer in the face and say, give me your best shot. Today is the day that I declare that diabetes doesn't have to be generational, that the curse of molestation ceases with me, that I will stop living paycheck to paycheck, that I will become a role model for my children, that I recognize that if I'm good enough to sleep with, then I'm good enough to marry. Today is the day that the pity party comes to an end. The time for excuses is over. Today is the day that I declare that I will no longer live defeated. I will not dim my light in order for you to feel brighter, baby. I was born to shine. I am more than a conqueror. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I'm a righteous woman that falls down 7 times but gets up 8. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am a woman with unlimited possibilities and infinite potential. I possess the power to make daydreams reality, to make my life one that matters. And today is the day that I step into my destiny. I can be whatever I say I can be, and I am whoever I say I am. And today I say I'm strong, beautiful, wise, intelligent, authentic, revolutionary, destined for greatness. I am a woman. I'm a woman that loves hard and strong. I'm a woman that loves pink frilly things. I'm a woman that struts in her stilettos and embraces her curves unapologetically. I'm a woman that loves being a woman, being treated like a lady, but never attempt to paint me into a corner because baby wasn't meant to be put in a corner. My life cannot be defined by coloring in lines. feelings. I am 360 degrees of pure femininity, bolstered by God's promises to me. And today is the day that we access our power. And by doing that, we give another woman the ability to grasp hers, to shine, to grow, to illuminate everything that is placed inside of her. You see, someone right now, right at this very moment, is waiting on you to be all that you can be so that they can be all that they are destined to be. Remember that line. We are the key to someone's lock. We are strength personified. We are the epitome of power. We are women. And together we possess the ability to change policies, to change communities, and to change lives. And to finally exhale, ladies, and just breathe with ease. Today is the day that we access our power. Thank you. So in January, I wrote this story down, but I know this story like the back of my hand, so I might just whatever. But in January of 2015, I worked at a church downtown. I'm not going to name the church, but if you read my blog, you can look it up. But and most of you probably already know. But I met with my pastor, who was my boss, and I said, I'm going to leave this year. And I worked there for 16 years, and at first I was the temporary secretary, then I was hired as the secretary, and then I was the administrative assistant to the pastor. So yes, a sister is bad, just like that. But in January 2015, I had my own office, I had my own parking spot, and after 15 years of service, I felt like I had arrived. And I say 15 years because when it got to year 16, I started feeling really antsy. And during my time working there, I wrote 2 novels and 6 collections of poetry. I performed countless poems around the city and nation, and I felt in my soul, I knew it as sure as I knew my name, that I was placed on this earth to write. And at that time, I lived in the East End, and the church was downtown, so every day it was like a 20 to 25-minute drive to work. And when you're sitting on 264 in traffic, it gives you a lot of time to think and pray. And I would say, God, this ain't it. God, please give me a sign. Please tell me, Lord. And let me keep it all the way real. Every day I was progressively later and later to work. And my job was real flexible with my time, but I was like, now, Hannah, you overdoing it here. So I tried to do my job with excellence. And I did do my job with excellence. But the weight of knowing that I was not in the right space started to weigh on me. So I knew during year 16 that I had to go. I had to give up my office. I had to give up the parking spot. I had to walk away. I didn't know how I would leave, and I didn't know when I would leave, but I knew it was going to be that year. And then February comes, and then March, and April, and May, and June, and July. And by that time, I'm thinking I must have been praying the wrong prayer or something because I'm still here. And then August comes. And my friend Charlotte Young was having an event, and she said, Hannah, I need you to write this poem. And I said, okay, Charlotte, what's the topic? And she said, the topic is about power, and it's about women's empowerment. And I said, okay, so I wrote the poem that you all just heard. And so I performed that poem. I was able to open up for Ayana Vincent, and I knew the minute that I performed that poem that my life had changed. But I still went back to work. I went back to the office. I went back to the parking spot, and I went back to my comfort. And then September comes, and October comes. But remember, I'm leaving that year, right? And then it's November, right? And the year had dwindled down, and one day, on a Wednesday, which I'll never forget this day, it's like any other Wednesday, but it's this day that's etched in my mind. I had this conversation with the janitor, and I was telling him to set up this space for a meeting, and he didn't want to set up this space, and we're arguing about setting this space up. And right. And in the middle of this argument, and don't feel some type of way when I say this, because me and him are friends, and I just saw him this week, and we hugged it out. Ben hugged it out. But so don't feel some type of way. But right. So in the middle of this argument, he hits me, not once, but twice. And it took, now we're in church, so I was calling on God, Jesus, Joseph, and Mary, and the 12 disciples. Because I'm thinking, what? And so the pastor got wind that this happened, and they let him go. But then, yeah, it happened. Oh, well, sometimes things got to end. And so, but then he says, and we're going to suspend you for 3 days for having this argument. And I'm thinking, no, y'all not. But so I said, okay, can I leave now, right? And so I pack up, and I walk down the hall, get in my car, and I'm just going home, back to the East End. 3 days, I chill, do what I want to do. And on the drive, I hit Oak Street. Now, I'm about to get on the ramp to get on 65 to catch 264. And as sure as I know my name, I heard God say, go back and get your stuff. And I hit a left and went back and got my stuff. And I remember at the time the secretary said, what are you doing? I said, I'm leaving. Well, what about your health care? I get Obamacare. And then on my way home, didn't even make it home, I called the pastor and I said, I quit. And then the next sentence I said to him was, I'm free. And I knew then I was finally free to write and to say anything that I wanted to say without persecution from church folks, because there's Christians and then there's church folks, right? And then, and then I blocked them and anyone from church from my phone, so they wouldn't call me and persuade me to come back, because I knew I would be easily persuaded back, right? And I felt amazing, right? Because you're like, I quit, and you're feeling free. And then that lasted for about an hour. And then reality set in, like I have these bills, and what have I done? And how am I going to pay my rent? And what am I going to do? And then how dare they suspend me? And then I'm crying. And I'm crying in a way like my soul is crying, right? And so that's the first point I want to tell you, that many endings are going to hurt. They are not going to feel good. They are going to make you uncomfortable. They will not seem fair. They won't even be fair. And you will ask yourself why. You will say, I don't like what's happening. I can't control what's happening. I didn't do anything to deserve this. I can't control what's happening next. This doesn't seem right. It doesn't feel good. But let me be the first one to tell you, if you haven't heard before, that change often doesn't come to your doorstep with warm chocolate chip cookies and a glass of milk. An ending sometimes just will not feel good. And we've been conditioned in this social media society to believe I quit my job and the next day I have this business and I'm a self-made millionaire. Or you leave your marriage or your relationship and you'll be like Stella on a beach getting your groove back. While that might happen for some people, let me tell you the odds of that are not likely. So my heart felt like it had been hit by a Mack truck. And I remember I called my friend Linda. This is not a point, but always have a good friend to have your back. And she came to my house, crawled in the bed with me and said, recite your poem, Power, Hannah. And I said, what? This ain't the time for all that poetry mess. And my world is falling apart. Nobody want to hear all that right now. And she said, just do it. So I started reciting the poem, and I got to the line, to have the courage to leave a job that doesn't pay you what you're worth. And she said, stop. Go back and say that line again. And she made me recite it over and over and over again until it got in my head. And finally, I realized it wasn't that they didn't pay me what I was worth. It was that I didn't know my worth. So that's the second point, is to know your worth. See, some of you right now are working in jobs where they know your value, but you don't know your value. And that's the truth. You are in relationships where your spouse or your partner knows your value, but you don't know your value, and because of that, you settle. So it wasn't them, it was me. I forfeited myself, I overworked myself, I did things I didn't want to do. I let men steal my ideas. I said yes instead of no. I was quiet. I took on more than I should have. I never said when I was overwhelmed. I called my ideas stupid before I said them. Did you hear me, Corey? I said sorry before making a comment, apologizing just for speaking, and I had to own how I allowed myself to be placed on the back burner. That's the truth. So I had to get up. I couldn't wallow in my sadness. And within days, I got another job, and I was an administrative assistant. Took the little interview, was scheduled to start, sent the paperwork, and it was my daughter that said, Mom, if you truly believe that you are supposed to write, just have faith and do that. So I called the job and said, I cannot take this job. And then my friend came and gave me a book called The Prayer of Jabez. And I said, I'm just going to pray this little prayer, see if it do anything. You know. But y'all can look the prayer, but one of the lines in the prayer asks God to enlarge your territory. And so I prayed in the morning and at night to see if it's anything to this little prayer. And so now it's February 2016, and I'm still not a self-made millionaire. I'm still not like Stella, get my groove back. Ain't none of that happening. But it was Super Bowl, and Beyonce was performing at the Super Bowl. And Formation, honey, I loved Formation. And you know, it just aligned properly where it was like the 50th year of the Black Panther Party, and she had her dancers with the afros, and she was all Beyonce'd out. And then, so she performed, and then like on Monday, people forgot Beyonce was black. And then, and everybody was all pissed off and stuff. And then, and so I was at an event, and I was at rehearsal, and this poem dropped right in my head. And I could see the last word of every line of this poem. And so when I got home, I said, I'm going to write this poem and put it on Facebook. So this is the poem. It's called Formation. Formation. Said firmly with no hesitation. Concern for your tears. Recently went on vacation. We are unbothered by your hating and your condemnation. It is simply confirmation and the very reason we're celebrating. This is the manifestation of a bloodline that birthed a nation. We ain't offspring, we're the foundation of creation. When you sip from Mother Earth, you're drinking our libations. This is lyrical liberation. You want to be mad at something? Be mad at the blood on the hands of this nation. This is the reincarnation of a spirit that has no expiration. This is old Negro spiritual salvation. That down south church fan waving congregation. This is B's black fist standing on Rock Nation. But since you seem to need some clarification, this is for 40 acres and a mule reparations, for picking cotton in fields with no compensation, for not telling slaves about emancipation, for Rosa being told to get in the back of your transportation, for Sarah Bartman's humiliation at the hands of your exploitation. This is for co-opting a culture with weak imitations, for Martin and Malcolm's assassinations, for countless years of segregation, for every time you told our sisters and brothers to assume the formation, for keeping them locked in a system chained to probation, for a racist system masquerading as fair administration. This is for Sandra Bland dead on the floor of a police station, for smallpox infestation. This is for Tuskegee experimentation, for telling us why all lives matter with no qualifications. This is for brutally raping a nation, for Eric Garner suffocation. This is for a black male shot dead at Fruitville Station. And this voice is the reincarnation of everyone you murdered with no justification. Now you bow down and simply assume the formation. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm almost done. So I wrote the poem and posted it online. And immediately, like 50 people shared it. And I thought, that's interesting. Then I went to sleep. And then I woke up the next day, and it was shared over 20,000 times. It literally went around the world. And in that moment, I knew that what I thought was an ending was just a beginning for me to step into my destiny. The world cast a spotlight on me, and I said, I'm going to start a blog. And the very first blog I wrote, over 6,000 people read it, and I was ecstatic. And my friend said, Hannah, one day, hundreds of thousands of people will read your blog. And I thought, yeah, right. That day happened this year when over 250,000 people read my blog. And then I wrote another poem, and it just so happened to be Super Bowl again this year. And I wrote this poem about Colin Kaepernick. And I would share it all the time, and he never saw it, whatever. And then my daughter said, oh, Mom, one day, this girl, I got a good one, ain't I? She said, oh, Mom, one day he's going to see it. Yeah, right. But on Super Bowl Sunday, I thought I'm just going to tag Colin Kaepernick one more time. And then I went to church. And then my phone started going crazy. And I'm thinking, it's Colin Kaepernick. But it was Ava DuVernay that had shared my poem immediately. And then my daughter texted me and said, Mom, Colin Kaepernick just shared your poem on Twitter. And it's been seen over 2.5 million times now. And I thought, and I was amazed, Colin Kaepernick? And I thought, well, what am I going to do with this platform that I've been given? And that's point 3, that your journey is not just for you. And someone right now is waiting on you to be all that you can be so that they can be all that they are destined to be. And my destiny and my calling and the reason that I'm on this earth is to speak truth to power, to be unapologetic in anything that I write, to be fearless when I stand up to speak because it is my calling. My influence isn't just for me, it is so that I can make this world a little bit better because I am in it. I listen to a song almost every day by Shekinah Glory, and it's called Yes, and it says, will your heart and soul say yes? Will your spirit still say yes? If I told you what I really need, would you still say yes? And if you were told that an ending for you to walk into your destiny meant that you would have to lose some things, but you would gain everything, would you still say yes? If an ending for you meant that it's going to cost you, if an ending meant for you to do what you are put on this earth to do, that you will lose friends, the office, the parking space, your comfort, your 401k, your home, your relationship, your marriage, your $7 lattes, your titles, that you would have to lose your habits, would you still say yes? If you were really told what it was going to take for you to be everything that you are destined to be, would you still say yes? And the song goes on to say that there's more that I require of thee. There was more to my life than being a secretary, and there's nothing wrong with that profession, but I was in the wrong place. There was more that was required of me, and I made a choice to say yes. And when I did, I didn't know that it meant that I would get hate mail every day, that every day someone would be calling me the N-word, that I would worry about the safety of my daughter, that I would get emails from members of the KKK threatening to blow off my head, that I would get messages from people that offered to be my security because they fear for my life, that I'd have to battle a nation that voted for a man that tells people to go back to Africa, that in 2019, I would have to organize a walk because the N-word is being spray painted on the Big 4 bridge, that I would have to stand and speak truth to power, that I would call for people to put an end to racism and homophobia and dislike for women, that I would have to witness the murders of black men, women, and children and stand up and speak even though I was breaking on the inside, that I would have to stand in spaces that made me uncomfortable, that I would have to stand in order to speak a message about injustice when people are still challenging me on white privilege and racism. But I made a choice. I have drawn my line in the sand, and as the quote says, I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. My ending was simply my beginning to propel me into my destiny to shake this nation. I am now in the right space, and I will never look back. So know that while an ending may hurt, while you might cry, that something is ending, it is just another part of your journey. When you're reading a book, you don't cry at the chapter that you just finished because you know another chapter is behind it. That you are being set up to walk into your destiny. So whatever it is that you need to end, when you think about an ending, just know there is something else better on the other side of it, and you can do it. And that's my story. That's how I got here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.